All right. Who among our five would like to go next? All right. Ted, the stage is yours. I'll ring us in.
All right,
Would you like a prompt for time, or are you okay for on your own?
It's okay. I'll start my little timer here so I don't go too long. I saw Richard waving too, so maybe hit him up next.
Okay.
Nope, maybe not. But anyway, I thought I would maybe jump in and go next because my topic really is related to what Bobby just shared, but in a different way. So I thought I would present my 5-minute talk on interdependence, which we could even call interbeing. But this is more from just a Buddhist perspective, drawing from our history. So of course, when we think about interdependence, maybe the first thing we might think about is interdependent origination, one of our core ideas and principles in understanding how the world works. And it's the notion that nothing exists in isolation. Everything is interconnected. And this topic has a great history, a rich body of Dharma knowledge in Buddhism. So, nothing, interdependent origination, nothing exists in isolation. Everything is caused by its interrelationship with everything else. And this is actually developed beautifully in the concept of Indra's net, in that everything is interconnected. And certainly, the trees are an example of that and how they're connected to their location and other trees and what's in the ground and what the weather is in the air and the earth. So the concept of Indra's net. And so some great resources for this in reading are the Avatamsaka Sutra. If you have a spare afternoon, actually, if you have about 50 spare afternoons, that's a good option. And the last chapter of that is the Flower Garland Sutra, but it just explores all of these ideas of interconnection. And in Connecticut, we have the Haiyan Temple, which is, I assume, gets its name from Haiyan Buddhism, which is a really early form of Chan Buddhism. And I'm actually coming to you from Rhode Island this morning. So I'm out of Connecticut, but it's a really nice day and I'm closer to the water and the leaves are coming down the trees right now here, which they aren't quite yet where I live in Connecticut, but they're just getting there. But anyway, the Haiyan school has some really interesting history and some core beliefs based on this too, which is actually called the Fourfold Dharma Dhatu. And the idea is if you look in the world, you can see things as individuals, like you can look at a particular tree and say, yes, this tree is special. Like heather sycamore, for instance, it's a special tree in and of itself. It's a beautiful thing by itself, which they would call shi, the concept of shi. But there's also this concept of li, looking at things from the universal perspective. All trees have been around for a long time, and they're interconnected. So there's, basically the concept of, you can look at everything as an individual, uniqueness, particularness, kind of mundane reality, but you can also look at things from a universal aspect. And then another concept, the third one of these, is that basically non-impedance. The individuality of anything, we could use trees, doesn't affect the universality of how everything is, reality, the universal reality. And the universal reality doesn't impede individual characteristics. In fact, how could individual characteristics manifest except as individual characteristics? And then finally, the fourth one of these in Haiyan tradition is viewing the individual and the universal, the mundane and the universal, as fused together, like Indra's net. So I just love these concepts. And in terms of, what this means to me, this whole concept of Indra's net and interdependence, interbeing, it manifests in a lot of ways. Certainly is connected to karma. If everything is completely interconnected, then all actions have effects, and everything I experience has causes. And it's like a net that extends throughout all space and time, basically. So helps me to feel connected and understand why I respond to everything that goes around me, and so does everybody else. This is also the view of interconnectedness, interdependence. Also, is of course closely tied to like Thich Nhat Hanh's concept of interbeing and non-self. You know, if I'm connected to everything around me, then is there really a self there if I'm the product of everything that's going on around? And every single thing you choose to just identify in the universe is actually also connected to everything that goes on around it, and its history and its situation, time and the season, all of this. And then the last thing that hit me about this topic is the concept of enlightenment. So becoming aware of all of this interconnection and interbeing. You know, Buddha nature allows me to experience this, and allows everybody to experience all this connectedness. And, you know, you see in Chan traditions, of which, you know, the Vietnamese tradition we're in has a lot of influence from that. But the idea of, you know, kind of sudden enlightenment, becoming aware of Buddha nature and the way that reality works, but the awareness can come suddenly, and then you realize, oh, it was always this way. You know, so that's kind of cool. I guess the last thing I'll say just in closing is, you know, you hear this concept of what? First, mountains are mountains, then mountains are not mountains, and then mountains are mountains again. And, you know, you can view as some mountain, we could do as trees just as well. You know, a tree is a tree. There's a particular tree. It's beautiful. We love it. And then you realize that, oh, there's this universal nature as well, where all, you know, trees are a part of that, and it's all universal. And then you can see the tree again as an individual tree, but a manifestation of the universal at the same time. And then it's a tree again, but it's a special tree that's connected with that view. And you could view people the same way. And that's 7 minutes. So I'll stop there. And thank you, Ted, bowing out.
Greg bowing in. Thank you, Ted. That was really interesting. So is Haiyan, did the Avatamsaka Sutra come out of that tradition? Or did they just, was it the other way around? I
think that Haiyan was really, they used the Avatamsaka and the Flower Garland Sutra as one of their major core sutras, or within their tradition. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
So it's all about interbeing and interconnection.
I remember reading. I've read some about that. I mean, the talk about impedance or lack of impedance is sounds familiar. So I do recall that. Thank you very much. Craig bowing out.
Bobby bowing in. Thank you, Ted. I didn't know any of that about Haiyan, and I thought it was interesting. And then as you were speaking, I started to think about, oh, it's like a cell in your body. Like, can you imagine being a cell in your body thinking, yep, I'm this cell, and this is me, and I'm just, you know, you're completely within yourself, and you don't realize you're part of this body. And there, where, or even a tree, like where does the tree stop and everything else start? It's so is. And thanks for bringing that to the frothy level today.
Yeah. Thanks. That's a great example. Yeah.
Jeff bowing in. So just a brief comment. Thank you, Ted. That's wonderful to know about Haiyan. I'm gonna look that up later. That's very interesting. That connection, the connection to DTO as well. That's where Thich Tree Wang started his interaction with the English speaking Sangha members there, and then started Dharma teacher order. So it's really interesting to know. And then just I think it's very appropriate you followed Bobby's talk, because the connection with your ideas and interbeing is very much there with the trees and the interconnection. And I think that's all trees and all living things have that interconnection. But again, for me, it's like the really big, really old ones, you can just kind of feel it a little more, because there's so much life there and they're so old, and you can have this feeling, or this knowing that they've been around much longer than us as individuals anyway. And so that connection and that interbeing is just all the more evident with them. So thank you.
Yeah. And without that interconnection and that history, they wouldn't even be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, you're muted, Craig.
Sorry about that. I was being the timekeeper. So I think we need to move on. Thank you very much, Ted.